Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This video is to explain a very critical aspect concerning the formatting of your thesis. After you have done all the research and have put pen to paper, or rather have created your typescript, apparently the most crucial and critical aspect is how to format your thesis as per the guidelines of your university. These notes, which I am recording in audio form, and the clips that you will see, the snapshots of the screens that I will show you in the video, are all pertaining to the History and Civilization Department of the International Islamic University of Malaysia, popularly called UIA in this part of the town. I'm just going to tell you the kind of mistakes I made in the formatting, which were pointed out by the IIUM Academy. It is mandatory to get your theses vetted or approved by the IIUM Academy. They have two modes mainly. One is they could do the entire formatting for you from scratch, or if you have chosen to save some money and you have in your own way followed the IIUM thesis guidelines, then you may give it to them for proofing the format. Now let us look at the responses received from the formatter to some of my queries and certain other mistakes or oversights that he has pointed out to me. Okay, so let's first go to review, and we'll say all markup, and then we'll go to the first available markup. I had asked him, do I need to add leaders in the table of contents after each item? He said, yes, you should add. Of course, as I explained in the first volume, a leader means adding these dots right up to the end. Normally, it should come automatically, but I'm yet to discover a way of getting it done. Of course, what I know is that if you go to table of contents, you have certain standard templates available in which you can add those dots, etc. I'm not going to go into that now because that's pretty time consuming. That's a different subject altogether. So anyway, the first answer was yes, you need to add leaders. And the second one was, I had asked him whether the formatting of the initial chapters and the chapter 1 are in order. He replied, kindly capitalize each important word. For example, copyright page. The P in page must be capitals. Similarly, table of contents, the C must be capitals. List of tables, the T must be capitals. Why is it that, similarly in approval page, why is it that these became what you just saw? That's because we had chosen over here the option called sentence case. In sentence case, what happens is only the first letter comes in capital, and over here I don't know for what reason it's not working. So in any case, you must ensure that, as you can see an option here, capitalize each word. So this becomes capital. But then again, what happens when you say capitalize each word? These noise words or supporting words like off, they become capital. So that should not be done. So if it happens like that, you have to manually go and change it to lowercase. That is also true in the other parts of the, okay. Now he says abstract in Arabic is missing. Now, actually what he meant is that abstract in Arabic that appears in Arabic here should not be there. It should be abstract in Arabic. Abstract in Arabic. So I'm just doing this manually, which is not recommended, of course, but in the absence of time or, a better way of doing things, it's best to do it manually. And similarly, with adding the leaders, you should go down and add the leaders here. You notice over here, page number 3 is missing. And another funny thing that happened was that when we say make capital every word, even the numbers over here, because they are actually alphabets to represent figures. So it converted into, the first letter became capitals. So now you'll have to manually go and make the changes as I'm currently doing it over here. And for some reason, certain words get bold, and I can't seem to figure out why it happens. If it does happen, just come and ensure that the bold is removed. Click on B again, it goes away. To make it short, I'm going to skip the other changes and come to the other comments that were received. This is another major comment that was received. Over here he says, in chapter 1, you should give at least one space after numbering. That is 1.1 introduction. All right. Now there should be at least one space. You just have to add a space over there. But you see now background is not formatted the way it should be. But then I remove the space over there. Another observation is, he says your all headings in chapter 1 is spaceless. That means this one. All of them don't have any space. For example, here. So you just have to go and manually enter the space. At times when you find that one space that you enter is leading to problems, just go down and see now, for example, I entered a space, it did that. Just go down and press delete, it becomes okay. He also makes a mention of no note in table of contents will be in italics form except words which are non-English. Similarly, lower case for supporting words, etc. Statement of the problem, the rationale of this research, etc. For example, you see statement of the problem. O over here is caps. It should not be caps. It's only a noise word or a supporting word. Same thing for. So you'll have to go down and manually change it. Quite time consuming, and of course you have to do it because that's what the guidelines are. So let's go down and see the next comment. The next comment is you need to add chapter number as well. All right. Now this was another tricky part, the list of tables. Now in the first iteration, he told me that you should enter a table, the table number along with the chapter to which it belongs. So I understood it this way, but then he corrected me here, and I'll show you how I went about correcting it. He said, no, it says that table 4.1, subscriptions to Ottoman Red Crescent Society. 4.1, 4 stands for chapter and 1 stands for the table number within the chapter. If you have more, it will become 4.2 and so on. You do not need to show what you have in appendix, as appendix is not considered your main chapter. All right. So there's a way I went about doing this. Okay, let me show it to you how I did it. So I went here and I made it table 4.1, subscriptions to the Red Crescent Society. So I go select this. I go back to the table of contents. A quick way to do that is go to view, navigation pane, and you can quickly go here to list of tables. So what I do now is I simply go and I change this to 4.1 subscriptions order. And he didn't want me to have this because it's part of the appendix, so I just go and delete it. It's as simple as that. So I close this so that the comments can be viewed. All right, so this is done. So once you do it, you just go down, reply and say done. I've actually done it in the next iteration. So let's go down to review and see what's the next comment. Okay, first he asked me to remove a dot. It was 1.1 dot. So I removed it. I asked him, is it okay? So he said, yes, it's okay. Do the same for the others as well. Be consistent in the first line space. Better follow 1.27. So what happened was, for some reason, the first line indent over here, of course, I've corrected this now. So if you go see in, home, paragraph, the first line indent, it was lesser than 1.27. I went and corrected it to 1.27. So that's the way you go and check what is the indent. You first select the paragraph, you go to paragraph and you go and check what is the um, special indent only for the first line. All right. And check everywhere that you have same kind of space. So in some places, for some reason, the space was a little less or more, and I eventually went one by one and I corrected everything. Okay, there again, I guess I've already told you this in the previous part one of this. He says, yes, you should remove the quotation and give a space after each verse. So you just have to go and press the enter key. I know I've told you that entering the enter key is not recommended, but since we're running out of time and MS Word works kind of differently at different times, you see, normally I would select this and I would say home, paragraph, and I would say after 6 point. But it doesn't make that 6 point. I'm trying to figure out what could be the reason. So in any case, I don't want to waste your time. So I just enter key and then it adds the thing. So let's go and quickly see what are the other observations. Okay, to reduce the gap between. Now this is one tricky thing. The formatter wants me to reduce the gap after 1.3. Statement of the problem must not start with this much gap. So I finally, I guess, figured out a way to do that. I go to home, I click on this part, multi-level list. I go to define new multi-level list. And if you want to reduce the space between the number and the header, then follow number with a tab character or with space or with nothing. So I say nothing and see what happens. So there is no space at all now. So you can go and just enter a single space here. So that is one way of reducing the space between the number and the header. So I come here, I go to define multi-level thing, then I say follow number instead of with tab character. I can also say space and it kind of reduces the gap. And so this is one of the other comments. So let's go back and see what were the other feedbacks. This is apparently the last iteration, after which the formatter agreed to all the changes I made, and I received an endorsement from the IIUM Academy. So let's see what are the major changes that were required here in this final iteration. If you remember that in the earlier case, in part one, the formatter had pointed out that there must be names entered in the approval page, and I wrote back to him that my supervisor says that these details will be entered only when the thesis is ready to be bound in hard copy. But then he says, no, actually what you need to do is enter some names over here to make sure that the names you enter are properly aligned. And apparently the names that I entered were not properly aligned. To advise me how they should be aligned, the formatter took the trouble of adding this line over here and to tell me that, look, this is how it should be aligned. And then I added this next line over here to ensure that the paragraphs, that the leaders over here, that these dots that you see are also properly aligned. So that was one of the major suggestions. The other major suggestion that came about over here was concerning the appendices. That was quite a challenge for me, and I'll tell you what was required. So this was one of the major items over here. Other than that, all of them were very simple. He said, look, you must add appendices in the table of contents in bold, and then all the appendices underneath that must not appear in bold, and they must appear in sentence case. Of course, like I told you before, all noise words and supporting words must not be in capitals, or not start with a capital letter. So anyway, This was not going to happen automatically because of the fact that if I were to do it automatically, it will come exactly as it appears in the document itself. In the document, Appendix 1, Appendix 2, etc. are bold. So they will appear in the table of contents as bold. So we have to manually go and change it. And also, one of the other advices that I received, and perhaps I've not discussed this with you earlier, is that you see item 2.2.9, the word 18th century earlier used to come under 2. Now, on the instruction of the formatter, I made it appear under S. So that again is done by going to home, going to paragraph, and then creating what is called hanging and specifying the amount that should be, that should be selected for hanging. 1 or 2 iterations, and then you will get it right. He also wanted me to do exactly the same for the appendices. I happened to get it done, and the way I did it was purely manual. And again, using the same trick above to go and what is called create them manually. I had to actually do it in MS Word in another file, copy it and put it here. And you notice if there is some kind of an extra space here, all you need to do is to go and delete it over here. So this is how I went and resolved it. Appendices is now in bold, and appendix 1, 2, 3, 4 are not in bold, and all of them are what is called in sentence case, and all the noise words are not in don't start with capitals. Now, this creates a problem. Now, because of this manual thing, if I click on this, it won't take me to the exact location, which is not the purpose of a table of contents. But this is how they want it to look, and so I made it look like the way they wanted it to look. Apparently, there might be a better way of doing it, but at this moment, to satisfy the IIUM Academy that everything is done as per how they want it to look. Otherwise, like bibliography, for example, when I click on this, it takes me to bibliography. But in the case of appendices, I'm not able to do that. I'm not able to go directly from the table of contents to the appendices. See, that's because I have interfered with the method in which things should be done for the sake of adhering to guidelines. So here you are, table of contents. Notice here in all the others, if I click here, I'm taken to the right place. But in the case of appendices, that's not the case. I'm sure there is a workaround, but perhaps I will create another small video on how to actually resolve this problem. In terms of adhering to the requirements of the IIUM formatting, I think this should serve the purpose. And after having submitted the corrections that I made, I got an endorsement saying that, okay, everything is fine. Thank you very much for your time.